Welcome to Uccello's for today's media luncheon. Joining head coach Matt Mitchell is safety Jarrod Cox. Coach, if you can just talk a little bit about the Findlay game, and then we'll move on to Tiffin. Thanks.
Obviously, turnovers were the name of that game. We punted once and had 6 turnovers, 3 interceptions, and 3 fumbles. It's very tough to win ball games when you turn the ball over that much. Offensively, I think probably the bright spots for us offensively is Hershey Jackson. He ran really hard and made some of their guys, ran through some tackles, made some of their guys miss, and had his best game to date. I thought our offensive line handled some very difficult fronts and movements well at times. Other times when we really needed them down inside the goal line, coming away with 2 field goals was disappointing there. That was a tough prep for Heath in just his 4th college start because of a couple factors. One, we didn't have quite the volume of tape in regards to them playing people that are similar to us. They'd played Northwood University, which is really no value to us at all. It's a triple option. There's no carryover whatsoever. Northern Michigan has some stuff that's similar. And then, the week before they had played Tiffin, which is not anything close to really what we do too. So it was a little bit harder for Heath because in the previous games we had a pretty good plan. We knew what we were supposed to do. This one we had to do a little bit more adjusting on the fly, and he had to try to adjust to what Findlay was doing. And there was times where he struggled with that, and that directly resulted in 2 of the interceptions were poor decisions where he kind of misread some things pre-snap. The 3rd interception he had, it was the right read, he just made a poor throw. So 2 things I would say chalk up more mental, and 1 thing a little bit more physical. So, but that's what he's got to get used to if he's going to be a starting quarterback here, is that there's going to be times where people throw some things at you that you haven't seen on tape, and you got to be willing to adjust, and as a coaching staff and as the players adjust to what's happening. Defensively, we got thrown on some short fields, and at times we handled that well. We got some stops. Force some punts, force some field goal attempts. There's other times, though, we need our defense really to step up and help out our offense, which we didn't do it. So similar to what I said in the post-game press conference, last week against Indianapolis, our offense played good, but it wasn't good enough for us to win the game, obviously, with the poor play of our defense. This week, we went the opposite direction. Our offense did not play well. The turnovers were very costly. Our defense played good, but not good enough to get us out of there with a win. So, we have at some point here, we've got to play consistent football on both sides of the ball and not make mistakes which are costing us and putting us where we're at, which is winless in the league and heading into, the home game coming up at Tiffin. Tiffin has struggled throughout the first 4 games. They're giving up a lot of yardage rushing and just a lot of yardage total. They've really struggled to stop some people. Offensively, they've really struggled to run the ball. They really don't try to run the ball anymore. They try to really throw it around. The quarterback is, he's shifty. He'll pull it down, scramble, and run a lot. He's got a good arm, so I think he's kind of the thing that's holding together a little bit on their side of the ball, just in terms of what they're able to do offensively. And he's a good little football player, and obviously put a lot of weight on his shoulders. When they get down, they abandon the running game. They're just trying to make some plays, throwing the ball around. So what has happened is they've had some teams get leads on them. They throw it around. Typically when that happens, things can go south in a hurry, and that results in some turnovers, some shorter drives. You go some 3 and outs. You don't use up a ton of clock, and then the other offense is back on the field. So, it's a new crew, though. It'd be different than last year. New coaching staff. They're trying to implement some things. You can see what they're trying to get done. They've just struggled up front with their offensive line and trying to really establish a running game. So, we'll get back to work today. It's obviously critical at this junction. We've got to get something positive going as a team on both sides of the ball and start to get some momentum going out of this game, because we got a tough stretch coming up with road trips to Northern Michigan, to Lake Erie, which gave Hillsdale all they could handle on the road, and then we're back home for Fair State, Michigan Tech, which are going to be tough ones too. So pretty critical week for us to kind of get some things cleaned up and start getting a little momentum heading into the next 4 games.
Coach, in the past, Tiffin might have been a game where you were able to get some of the backups in and kind of try some different things. Is this, at this point now, a game you can't really take for granted?
Yeah, I don't think you can. we're not playing well enough to take anything for granted at this point. So it's less about Tiffin and more about Grand Valley. I know it sounds like a broken record with that, Mike, but it's more about us executing on both sides of the ball. And again, you know, when an opposing player comes up and rips the ball out of your hands 3 consecutive times, that's about us and our ball security, how we're coaching ball security, and how our players are doing it. So it's about us more than anything. So those are just microcosms in that game. The 3 fumbles that we had were microcosms of what we're not doing well right now. We're not doing a great job, obviously, coaching that up, and then our players aren't executing it, and it's costing us ball games. So we've got to get we've got to get our house in order before we start worrying about subs and getting out of the game and that type of stuff.
Jarrod, what's it like for a player right now to be in this situation?
It's a tough situation. Obviously, we're just not playing consistently. You know, we got some things we need to work on, and I think, you know, once we get to the point where we're playing consistent, we get both sides of the ball working together, you know, we'll be able to get back to that Grand Valley way. Right now, we're just not able to do that, and that's something we're going to come to work today and, you know, really try to get accomplished.
Coach, you know, one of the things we talked briefly about after the game was Hershey Jackson. How has he improved from last year when, you know, he saw some carries, but this year where he's starting to carry more load?
One of the most coachable kids we have on our team. Does everything exactly the way he's being coached. And he's come a long way throughout the course of his last 2 years. He's turned into a guy that we can really depend on in our program. And quite frankly, that's what we need out of everybody on our roster, is that kind of dependability, that kind of reliability that he's going to do those things. And obviously, he fumbled in the first game, you know, had a little trouble with that, but he's bounced back from that. And his footwork is great. His ball security has been good. He's taken the proper footwork. He's doing a lot of the little things that make a big difference. And I think that's a testament to him and Coach Brown and the guys on offense of, you know, you just keep coaching and you keep plugging away. And when you have a good coach-athlete relationship, that's the type of performance that you get.
Coach, talk a little bit about the turnovers really came at demoralizing times and in their own territory. Talk a bit about how the defense, you know, stepped up on several occasions, but just like you said, just wasn't quite good enough.
On all 3 fumbles, we had a first down. That was somewhat frustrating. If you have something that happens in the backfield and that type of thing, but on all 3 of the fumbles, we had gained a first down on the play. And then in the additional yardage beyond the first down, we had fumbled. That's hard. I mean, that's tough. And then the 2 picks that we threw, the first 2 picks we threw were down on our end. Our defense took the field. We call that a sudden change opportunity. And on a couple of those occasions, we forced some punts and got some stops. And that's a credit to our defense and the way that they approach the thing. And I said in the locker room, we're kind of even now. Defense screwed the thing up for the offense in Indianapolis. Offense screwed the thing up for the defense a little bit here at Findlay. But we never had one time in that locker room or one time on the sideline where anybody pointing fingers. So, you know, we're at that point where there is no finger pointing because we both have made mistakes at critical error at times that have put the other side of the ball in a bad position. But our defensive guys are fighting. You know, we saw some improvement. Again, and we've got to continue to improve on that side of the ball. But like I said at the opening comments, we weren't quite good enough. We gave up some scores and couldn't get some stops, and we needed some stops to get the ball back to our offense.
Jarrod, Coach says there's no finger pointing or anything in the locker room. Do you feel that's the same case? And if so, how do you guys stay kind of unified during, obviously, a tough time?
I mean, I think everybody understands that it's not an easy game. And like he said, you know, the offense screwed up once and the defense screwed up once. And, you know, as a team, I don't think we have kids like that in our program that are going to, you know, get down on one another. You know, Coach has said in the locker room after the game that right now it's going to come down to a lot of relationships, a lot of friendships in the locker room. And I think we have those close-knit relationships and friendships where nobody's going to be pointing fingers. We're all going to remain friends. We're all going to get this thing done together.
Jarrod, could you hear at times from the crowd any of, you know, the boos, the shouts, and when you hear that as a player, as a student, as that kind of thing, I mean, how does that kind of affect you guys?
You hear it, but I mean, it really doesn't affect you. You got a million other things going on in your head that, you know, it's not really a factor at all. It's just disappointing to, you know, hear that, but like I said, you just ignore it and, you know, keep handling your own business.
Coach, how's Danny?
His spirits are down. Nothing's really changed from what I said post-game Saturday night, Mike. We did a sideline test and didn't look good, but we still have to go through an MRI and get the test and the official findings and everything like that. So, I think for him, it was you could kind of see a little bit when he was getting walked off the field. He took a glimpse around, and that to me said a lot. That said a lot about what was maybe going through his head at that time. That may have been the last time he was walking off the field. So, a difficult situation. There's really no blame or anyone at fault for the situation. It's a little bit kind of what life has dealt him and dealt us, and we'll see. Again, it's important that if we get the findings back and it's conclusive that he may be not available for the rest of the season, then it's going to be pretty critical for him to be around our team and to be around some of these friendships and stuff that he's formed, because this is going to be, again, it's tough, and you're talking about possibly, I don't know for sure, but when you're just thinking out loud a little bit, it could possibly be the third time, and that's tough. That's a tough thing. There's really at this point little light of all, in his football career at the end of the tunnel, and sometimes that's hard to grasp. So we're going to need to be there for him as a staff and as the other players on the team, because it's going to be hard times.
Jarrod, what's it like, seeing a guy like that's fought and, been a teammate for so long, go down like that again?
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking, to see that happen to Danny, a kid who's put in so much time, done so many great things for this program. To see him, walk off the field like that, it's a real tough situation. Things haven't come back great, so like Coach said, it's going to be important for him to stick around and, maintain support from us and, carry these friendships and live out these last few days with this football team that he has.
Coach, also going back to Heath, and how do you feel like now 4 starts in? That obviously there's been some bad and there's been some good here and there too, though.
He's our guy. He's our guy. I don't know if that's where you're getting, but he's completely 100% our starting quarterback. And I think, like I said earlier in the comments, what he learned some lessons Saturday night about having to be able to adjust to some things on the fly a little bit. And when you're talking about a guy that's a 3.85 GPA, and that's kind of how, when in Indianapolis we had a really good plan and we knew it was going to happen, and we went out and executed that. And so now he's got to get to that next step in his development, that when things aren't clean, when they're a little bit dirty, being able to manage and handle those situations. And to his credit, he threw the 2 picks. He came back. He fired some good balls too. He had an out route again to Carrera. Two out routes to Carrera right on the money. There was another ball that I thought we maybe should have caught, and he hung in there and kept battling, and the kid's a competitor. So these are things that he's learning, being a first-time starting quarterback, as a sophomore and going into his 4th game. He's learning some lessons, but and he'll be the first guy. He's going to be the first guy to stand up, just like he did in the press conference. And if he was here, and he'll be the first guy to stand up, and he's not going to shy away from the fact that he made some mistakes and that he's got to get better in order for our team to succeed. So when you have that type of person and he's talented and he has the right work ethic and he's got intelligence and he takes ownership for his mistakes and things like that, that's the guy that you want to lead in your program. And we have to continue. He's just got to develop and get better. There is no substitution for game reps, and so him continuing his development and getting those game reps, that's going to just make him better as we move forward.
On the outside, everybody's going to focus on the negative, look at the bad stuff. Is it almost a situation where you need to look at those positive things, the growths that kind of happen throughout the course of the season?
We're going to go into this tape, and we're going to watch the tape with our players, and we're going to point out the good and we're going to point out the bad, and that hasn't going to change. For instance, Israel Wolfork, I don't think he's caught a ball yet this year. I don't think, off the top of my head, but I don't think he's caught a ball yet. He played really well Saturday. Some of the stuff that Hershey and Schuford were able to do was a direct result of some of the stuff that Wolfork is doing out in the perimeter. And he's a very unselfish kid, all special teams and what he's doing for our program right now. We'll talk about that and we'll point those things out. So there's a lot of, we're screwing some stuff up. There's no doubt about it. You talk about from me on down to our assistants, our players, we're making mistakes. And we'll point out those mistakes, keep working hard to correct it. But there's some other positive things that are happening. We've got to build on that, and that's got to translate to other people on the field.